What's up?
Not much. We had a great day of NBA basketball.
Yes, I like your hair a lot.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Did you just get it? Yeah, you obviously probably just. Did you get it today?
No, just yesterday.
Oh, okay. Got
I
it.
was kind of waiting for coronavirus to get over, but it didn't really seem like that was happening anytime soon, so I just had to suck it up and get it done, you know?
Was it starting to bother you?
Yeah, it wasn't starting to bother me. It had been annoying me for a minute, so it's nice return to normalcy.
So yeah, what's up? We're gonna do another episode. So, the Blazers big dubs,
Huge win.
Yeah, go through the game because I didn't really watch it. I was doing chemistry.
Okay, so going into the game, the Rockets were probably one of the hottest teams in the NBA, and they were sort of turning into like a sexy sort of hipster pick to even win the NBA championship because of their, let's just say, unique approach to the game, which, whether it's a gimmick or not, is up for debate. But they don't play any players that are taller than 6'7", and their starting center PJ Tucker is actually 6'5". And so going into the game,
wait, okay, hold up. Who's Clint Capella playing for?
He got traded to the Hawks.
Oh, okay. Because I remember he was pretty good.
He was pretty good, but and I'm gonna get into this very thoroughly later, but it just was never gonna work out with him in Westbrook, and so he had to.
Oh, yeah.
He had to get back in, but
wait, hold up. I'm gonna close my window. There's like people outside.
So anyway, in the first quarter, the Blazers got off to a good start. We had trouble containing Westbrook, and he kept racking up fouls on our big guys, which ended up not being too big of a problem just because we are so deep that we had plenty of like new faces to throw at him. And he was not making his free throws, which was another big storyline, is how Westbrook kind of shot his team out of the game at the foul stripe. And so, like I was saying, the Rockets are small, and so you would think that Nurk would be able to have a big game and sort of just beast against them in the post, which he did. I think he got pretty close to a 20-20 game, 20 points, 20 rebounds, but he was not as dominant as I hoped he could have been, and he missed a lot of just chip-in shots, which was frustrating. Like, probably like 4 or 5 times he had just a baby hook or some sort of layup that he just wasn't able to finish. But overall, a good game from Nurk. He rebounded well. He did everything that was really asked of him.
Yeah, so PJ Tucker's guarding Nurk.
Well, the thing about the Rockets is they pretty much switch everything. So
yeah,
it's pretty much everybody got their chance with Nurk.
So who is like does Nurk have a specific player on the Rockets that he kind of dominated when they switched to him? Or because like I feel like if you switch Nurk and like Harden's guarding him or Russell, that's an obvious mismatch.
Yeah, Harden surprisingly was one of their best guys on Nurk tonight.
Defensively?
Yeah, just because of how strong he is compared to the other Rockets. He doesn't really let Nurk back him down at all. Russ was a problem against Nurk, and a lot of times Russ would try to front Nurk because obviously Russ is not as strong as what you would like in the post, so Russ would just front him. And I think a couple times Dame was able to make that pass just right over Russ's head. That led to some
that's not a good move, probably.
To front Nurk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
you just lob it over the top.
Yeah. Like, I mean, like, what else are you really going to do? But, like, it's not ideal for the Rockets. And then the guy who I thought Nurk was really able to take advantage of was actually Robert Covington, who, even though he's the tallest guy in the Houston Rockets starting 5, I think he might be one of, if not the worst post defender in the Rockets starting lineup, just because he's a little bit light in the shorts compared to some of the other guys on Houston, which makes it tougher for him to compete.
Yeah, that's dope. I saw, dude, not to like change the topic, but like Jaren Jackson getting hurt, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it's huge. It's
I feel terrible though. A meniscus, that's going to be tough to come back from.
Yeah, and he's one of those guys. This is already his second knee injury just of this season.
Really?
Yeah, and so it always sucks to see anybody get injured, but I always think it's way worse when it's like a reoccurring injury because it just kind of shows you that something's like not right with their body. But hopefully this time he can really take all the time he needs to recover. Because like obviously I talk about it a lot on the show is how much I like his game and how good I think he is. So
You literally said he's the best player on the Grizzlies.
Yeah.
But yeah, that looked like an insane game. And the Rockets, I didn't realize that their record was they're pretty solid. I just remember when the Warriors beat them on Christmas Day. That was kind of funny.
Yeah, that was crazy. And that was sort of one of the games that kind of sparked the idea that it was never going to work with Capella just because of how bad Russell Westbrook was in that game and how and so yeah, it's a completely different Rocket team than the one that lost to Golden State on Christmas. Whether the team's more or less viable, the jury is still out, I would have to say.
100%. It looks like that the Blazers, what did they do to contain Harden so well?
So honestly, we just didn't foul him, which was a big thing. And obviously, like, on one end, we didn't foul him. Obviously it's freaking James Harden. He's going to get to the line, but
right. Yeah.
Like we played him pretty well. We didn't bite on a lot of his tricks. We didn't give him a single 3-point shooting foul, which is huge. It doesn't really happen very often. And then on the other end, he got 5 fouls and he had to sit down for large portions of the game just because he himself was in foul trouble, which I thought maybe one of the fouls that got called on him was a little iffy when
really?
Yeah, I think it was CJ McCollum who got – was it CJ McCollum or Damian Lillard? One of them picked up the and one on Harden in transition, and it looked like Harden definitely slapped at it, but I think he completely whiffed. He didn't get ball or arm. But, I mean,
damn.
He makes a living drawing bullshit fouls, so it's nice to see one called on him every once in a while.
No, yeah, that's definitely true. The game, I'm looking at the little slider chart. It's pretty freaking close the whole entire time.
Yeah.
It seemed like early in the second quarter, the Rockets kind of they had the lead for like the whole quarter, I think. Right?
Yeah.
Or no, Portland did. Portland
had the lead for most of the second quarter, most of I think the late third and early fourth, we had like a steady like 4 to 10 point lead. And then Houston clawed their way back in it. And then the Blazers went on a 7-0 run to close it out in the fourth, which was massive.
Yeah, the Blazers were up by 11 and like midway through the second. That's pretty impressive that they came back. Yeah, it's weird. The Blazers, they're pretty like persistent, it seems like, and there was the Houston got kind of killed by some dry spells, it seems like.
Yeah, and Houston just got killed by shot making. Like,
really, a lot of poor shots.
Yeah, we sold out to stop Harden and Russ. Like, we'd send double teams if we had to, which was like we sent double teams on pretty much every possession. I didn't necessarily agree with that just because I trust our guys one-on-one defending, especially Gary Trent. I would trust him with my life defending someone one-on-one. But Terry Stotts still felt the need to trap the ball handler, which led to just a bonanza of wide open threes for guys like Daniel House and specifically Jeff Green, Robert Covington, Ben McLemore. Luckily, they weren't falling for the Rockets tonight. So you got to kind of tip your hat to Terry Stotts for that game plan because I mean, it obviously worked because those role players on the Rockets weren't making the shots they needed to.
Yeah. I want to ask you, so how much, because the Rockets beat the Bucks or whatever, how much weight or how much stock do you take in the fact that like the Rockets, like some of these teams are beating teams that are otherwise like better than them, you know? Like, do you think it's like attributed to the layoff, or do you think teams are going to turn it up, or do you think that these kind of games, like, because in my opinion, I think that these games are pretty They are important, but I feel like everyone's trying to play their hardest right now. I don't think anyone's cruising.
Yeah, I agree.
They want to get back in their groove, probably.
Yeah, I agree. So a lot of times, and this even goes for non-quarantine, just regular season games.
Yeah.
I don't really put much stock into like results of the games. Like obviously the results super important because this is hugely important in helping Portland get the 8th seed. But just because we win, I'm not going to go and say like, oh, we're like better than the Rockets or something like that. But what you can sort of take stock in is like certain trends. And so like obviously we saw in this game like Houston cannot compete with Portland on the glass like whatsoever.
No, Covington, Nurk had 20 rebounds almost.
Yeah, we out-rebounded them by a huge margin, which, like, if we were to play the Rockets in the playoffs, which seems maybe unlikely, like, I think that would be something that we could expect to see is that Portland would probably out-rebound them by a ton in that series.
Yeah, and that's huge. Dude, offensive rebounding is, like, that's how you win games.
Yeah.
Second chance points are massive. Is Robert Covington, was he on the Sixers?
Yeah, he was on the Sixers. Then he was on the Timberwolves this year, and he got traded mid-season to the Rockets.
Okay, yeah, I only really remember him from the Sixers.
Yeah, he was part of that Clint Capella trade.
He's 6'7", and he's their biggest guy?
Yeah, him and Jeff Green. I think Jeff Green is 6'7" as well.
Man, so they play hardcore small ball. Yeah, I feel like I knew that, though. They kind of can get away with it because they're pretty – like, small and athletic sometimes isn't the worst way to go.
Especially they're kind of girthy too. Like,
yeah, James.
Yeah, even though they're small, they're not really getting pushed around out there.
No, yeah, PJ Tucker's not going to get pushed around.
No.
Yeah, Dame looks like he. I mean, I don't know. He didn't have the best game.
No, he struggled. They like hats off to Houston. They did a really good job of slowing Dame down. He was pretty much in a bottle all night. Couldn't really get threes, couldn't really get to the glass. And I think that's what's so beautiful about the Rockets defense is that they can switch everything. And when you switch everything like they did tonight, like a guy like Damian Lillard's going to have a much harder time getting an advantage on the defense and he's going to have a much harder time sort of manipulating the defensive positions. And so, the Rockets really shut him down.
Man, Gary Trent looks like pretty good. Like, I didn't even really know who he is, but I can see why you'd be high on him. This guy, actually, I'm looking through his stuff. He looks pretty solid, and he's 21.
Mm-hmm.
Is he a rook or no?
Second year. This
Dude,
is really
he looks good.
He's insane, and this is really his
points coming off the bench. That's massive.
And
40 beyond the arc.
The go-ahead bucket late in the fourth quarter as well. That's just a massive shot. And I'm super high on Gary Trent Jr.
Dude, 35 minutos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
He is our sixth man. He's going to be the sixth man this year, and he more than deserves it. So
I want to watch him play.
Yeah.
Man, that's really good.
Impressive thing about Gary Trent is, like, obviously he's a knockdown shooter. He moves really well off the ball. Like, he always finds gaps in the defense, which is one of the most, like, not really frustrating, but he's open on a majority of these possessions. He could have had a lot more threes today.
Really?
If we found him a little bit more. But, I mean, that's neither here nor there. Like, obviously he's not the number one priority in our offense. But
will be.
Yeah. But just his effort and sort of, like, I know it sounds cliche, but he's sort of that pit bull bulldog defender. Like, he gets in guys' faces. He never backs down. He's not intimidated by anybody. He moves his feet so well. He keeps his hands up, maintains verticality.
Bro, yeah, he's going to be a guy to look out for. Without him, you would have lost the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, straight up. Like, it's like stupid to think about, like, in retrospect, but, like, if he doesn't drill those 4 3-pointers, I feel like that's pretty massive. He led the team in threes that game.
Yeah.
He was shot. What is that? Yeah, I mean, he was 4 for 9. So, yeah, he's right on par with his actual 3-point percentage, which is.
We would have lost the Memphis game without him too. Like,
really?
He's a key guy. I mean, when the rotation is as short as it is right now, like, Terry only plays 8 guys a game. like really take away any of them, and we'll probably lose. So I guess it's really like not saying much, but like he's been our fourth best player, easily our fourth best player for this NBA restart.
Yeah, I really like. I mean, I don't want to like beat a dead horse, but like he seems really good. How come I never heard of him?
Well,
Was he pretty big coming out of Duke? Was he like a first round or something?
he was a second round pick. Didn't play at all his rookie year. Didn't really start playing until midway through this season. I mean, maybe didn't start playing till like a quarter through the season.
Really?
Yeah, started really heating up after the All-Star break. And I think right now he's averaging about 13 points a game. So, like, he's really just come on strong, like, the last few months of the NBA season. Obviously not including all the months that got canceled, but the last few months of actual basketball have been where he's really started to make a name for himself.
That's sick, dude. He kind of, and I mean, only from his like his profile pic, but he kind of reminds me of Crab.
Yeah.
What is Alan Crab up to?
I believe he got cut off of the Minnesota. He got cut off of Minnesota. He got traded. Yeah, he got traded from Atlanta to Minnesota, and I'm pretty sure Minnesota cut him.
Damn. Yeah, he left the Blazers because he got like an absurd amount of money, right? I mean, like he was like he got more than definitely probably what he was worth.
Yeah, he got a massive contract from Brooklyn.
Yeah, that's crazy. I know. I was really surprised because I liked him when he was there.
Yeah, and
in Portland,
he looked like he was going to have a good career, and then the shot just stopped going in for some reason.
That's tough. I mean, it's kind of funny though. Like once people leave certain environments, how they rapidly go on a decline.
Yeah, I mean, good for him securing the money before his game totally fell off.
But. Yeah. But the Blazers, they've got the Nuggets, which is going to be tough. They've got the Clips, obviously tough. They've got the Sixers, which isn't going to be easy. They got the Mavs, and then they got the Nets. Dude, that's murder row right there.
But I don't know.
No, I trust them, but the Nuggets, Clips, Sixers, Mavericks.
But when you look at the Nuggets, that's a team playing without Jamal Murray, playing without, more importantly, Gary Harris, playing without Will Barton. Torrey Craig has been off and on. Like,
wait, why isn't Jamal? Is he hurt?
Yeah, he's hurt at the moment.
He's day to day.
Yeah, all these guys
why is Gary out?
That's a good question. I'm not
sure. Did he
opt
out of the season?
No, it's some sort of injury. It's nothing major.
So it's
they're just kind of they're just kind of nicked up. It's none of them are like out for the season or anything. They're all sort of in that day-to-day boat. But like with all their starting guards out, and importantly, Gary Harris is not far from a good shooting guard, but one of the better defensive shooting guards in the league. Having that great on-ball defender is just vital to slowing down a team that has Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. So I think a shorthanded Denver Nuggets sort of plays right into the Blazers' strength. So I see that as a very winnable game. The next one, Clippers, tough.
Wait, hold up. How do you that would be fun. The Nurk-Nikola battle is probably pretty fun to watch.
Oh, yeah, especially considering Nikola basically kicked Nurk out of Denver. But
yeah,
I mean, obviously Nikola's better than Nurk. I don't think Nurk's going to be having his best game necessarily against Jokic, but I hope he can slow down Nikola defensively, which I don't think is too much to ask, especially when you consider Zach Collins. Like, the Blazers are playing with a lot of length, which is going to bother Nikola Jokic, who likes to find those passing lanes and stuff. So I think this could be a tricky matchup for Nikola. And on the other end, I just don't think they have any way of countering what the Blazers want to do, especially when you put Nikola Jokic in pick and rolls all day. I don't think it's going to be pretty for Denver on the defensive side. And then you move on to the Clippers game, which the Blazers just don't match up well at all against the Clippers. Maybe I guess I can dream that at that point the Clippers have locked up the second seed and are resting all their good guys, but barring Kawhi and Paul George not playing, it's just almost a scheduled loss for the Blazers. The Sixers
is a toss-up.
Yeah, the Sixers have been very, 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 very disappointing since the NBA has returned. Joel Embiid has been good because he's one of the best players in the NBA, but
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
else from him just kind of looks lost out there. They are really struggling to find an identity. They're a great defensive team. Well, not great. They're good. They have good defenders on their team. Somehow it doesn't always come together for them.
Is Benny playing good?
Not. He's
Not
playing
particularly well.
not particularly well. He has really struggled in back-to-back matchups. So yeah, he's kind of on a rocky trajectory right
Okay,
now.
wait. Can we rewind to the Clippers? So like how?
Yeah.
Like I know that obviously the Clippers have more star power, but why do the Clippers like exactly like why can't the Blazers? Why don't you think they match up well?
We kind of saw this against the Celtics, but if there was one weakness on the Blazers,
Because like I don't,
roster,
not to interrupt you, but like I don't see any teams running through any teams. Like I see close games, especially if you have Dame and CJ. Like
yeah,
I don't really see like especially in maybe in a series. Obviously, the Clippers would probably get the Blazers, but in a one game, I don't really see the Clippers like dominating anybody. I mean, even like the Lakers or anything, especially the Blazers, who I feel like they're pretty solid.
yeah. That thing that just worries me though is, and I forget if I talked about this going into the Celtics game, but if there was one weakness on the Blazers roster, we just don't have any guys who can defend wings. And so that's why you kind of saw Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Gordon Hayward just have a field day against the Portland defense. And then Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are two of the best in the business. And I don't really think the Blazers have any answers if those two are locked in. And that would be my biggest concern going against the Clippers.
What's Dame like defensively?
He's better than people think. He is not necessarily a lockdown defender, but he moves his feet. He can stay in front of most guys.
Okay.
If we're looking at the Clippers or whatever, I don't really necessarily see Patrick Beverly or Reggie Jackson posing any challenge to Dame on defense.
Yeah. Is Trevor Ariza? Does he get significant amount of minutes or no?
He was our starting small forward, but he opted out of the NBA restart.
Oh, he is.
Yeah,
That would have been he. I feel like he would have been a good matchup for some of those wing players.
for sure. He was the best guy we had to throw at opposing wing players, but
Yeah, and then Melo hit a big shot.
Melo hit a monster shot. Yeah, he kind of not really iced the game, but he gave us a 2-possession lead with 50 seconds to go on a clutch 3.
How is Swanigan playing?
No.
Where is he? What is he doing? Does he just sit?
Yeah, he didn't come to the bubble though.
He didn't.
His NBA career is over. Like it's sad. Yeah, it is. This was the last year of his contract, and he did not perform well, and he's not going to be getting another contract, if you know what I mean.
Ouch. That sucks. I kind of liked him.
Yeah, it's a bummer for him.
Yeah. What do you think went wrong? You just think he's just doesn't. I don't know.
He's too slow, and his offensive skill set does not apply at all to the modern NBA, and he's too small and unathletic. A more interesting question would be what went right, and there's not really any answers to that one. So it's going to be out of the league for Caleb.
So where are we seeing the Blazers go? What are we seeing them go in the 5-game stretch?
3-2, I would say, is a realistic goal. I would say
dropping it to the Clips and Mavericks.
Clips and Sixers. I think we can compete with the Mavs, especially if they still are a little banged up.
I think so. You're saying that they will lose to the Sixers and the Clippers?
Yeah, I think we could probably beat the Sixers too, but
I'm looking at that and I'm thinking that you could go 4-1.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way. Maybe it's possible. It's sort of wishful thinking. Like, I definitely like our chances to go 4-1. I just feel like that's a little optimistic, so I'm just gonna say maybe the Sixers catch us slipping a little bit. But we're gonna beat the Nets. Like the Nets are a cakewalk. I hope, like knock on wood, like we should have no problem with the Nets. And then I think we can probably beat the Nuggets unless their guys are healthy for that game for some reason. And then I think we can knock off the Mavs. The Sixers is a toss-up, so I'm going to give it to the Sixers. So conservatively 3-2.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Like the NBA is sick though. Like you don't have to be exactly 500 or at least 500 to make it to the playoffs. And because like even like the Blazers are solid too, especially now that they're fully loaded. I feel like this break in a weird way might not have been the worst thing.
No, and our guys were like slated to come back like the week after the NBA was shut down. But I think it was a huge help having not only our injured players, but every player in the NBA sort of come off the couch and step onto the court. So there was no real, so our guys weren't sort of behind the game, so to speak. We were like in the same position as everybody else.
Yeah. What's up?
I said, I don't know if that makes sense, but.
So like you want to go through the top 5 point guards. So cause like I'm going to go through the video and edit the one that we did. It was so funny to listen to. It's so good. And we should have Anders on again, but like I was just like concerned because we literally shit on a lot of different athletes in that, you know what I mean? So well, I'll just edit some stuff out with Bianca because she's really good at that. And then we're going to put some clips out, but you should give your top 5 point guards.
Okay. Can I do more than my top 5?
Yeah, actually give us all your 30. Give us 30.
30? Okay.
Just keep it brief. Keep your description brief.
I won't even get into descriptions till I get well, maybe I'll do brief decisions.
All right, Jonah's going to give his top 30 point guards.
So 30, I did Jeff Teague. He's a good guy if you kind of want to play an up-tempo offense. He's going to make the right decisions. He's got pretty good vision, especially in the open court. I just don't really think he has enough firepower on offense and enough chops on defense to sort of merit an above-average ranking. 29, I went Kendrick Nunn, rookie for the Miami Heat. He has displayed a tremendous amount of shot making, especially off the dribble in the mid-range. He can hit three-pointers at a pretty good clip. The thing that worries me is he's kind of regressed as the season's gone on, so it's hard to know whether he caught like lightning in a bottle or whatever. I think he's an NBA player. I just don't quite know where I stand on him right now, especially since he has really no feel for passing. He has a very hard time spotting even the most wide open of teammates, and so I'm a little worried about him. 28 is pretty much the anti-Kendrick Nunn, and that's TJ McConnell. He's pretty much made a living of not being a shooter, but just keeping his dribble alive, always got his eyes up, always scanning the floor, always finding open teammates, pretty much everything you want out of, well, not everything you want, but he's a good like floor general, and that if TJ McConnell is on the floor, the ball is always going to be moving, and that is a beautiful, beautiful thing. Number 27, I put Mike Conley, who has regressed a lot this year, but still provides scoring at 2 of the 3 levels. Not as good around the basket as he used to be, but the mid-range game and the three-pointers. Well,
How old is he?
How old is he? I want to say he's 32 or 33. You can fact check that really quick, though. But yeah, the three-pointers has regressed.
32.
32, yeah. The three-pointers regressed, but the shot looks good, so I'm not concerned about it. He just isn't dynamic.
He's good. I like him a lot.
Yeah, I like him a lot, too. He's just not as dynamic as he used to be, and so he's not as good. Number 20.
God, I know. When you're 32, man, you just like, you can barely walk. Like, you're so old.
Number 26, I put a guy who is another older guy. I'm not quite sure how old he is. I want to say like 33 or 34. And that's George Hill. He's been a real weapon off the bench for the Milwaukee Bucks this year as their backup point guard. Just shoots the lights out of the ball. plays tough on defense, plays a lot bigger than he is on defense.
I liked him a lot, especially when he was on the
too.
Pacers back in the day.
Yeah. And last year on the Bucks, when Giannis was really struggling, and obviously Eric Bledsoe was doing whatever he was doing last year during the playoffs, George Hill really stepped up and was able to run effective offense even as they lost the series to the Raptors. So that's why I included him number 26. Number 25, very underrated player, DJ Augustine. Not the flashiest of names, been around the league for a while. Definition of a solid veteran. He has all the tricks in the book on offense. All those sort of like wrong-footed layups, those little hezzy floaters, just sort of different tricks he can use to catch the defense napping. He's so good at that, and he can hit the three ball as well.
Dude, he's been in the league for a minute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We were in second grade when he was drafted. That's insane.
Yeah, but I mean, you can tell though he's got pretty much every trick in the book in terms of scoring as a point guard, and so that's why I kind of like him as like a good point guard you could have off the bench. 24, this is going to be controversial. I kind of ranked this guy a little lower than I bet most people would have. That's Jamal Murray.
I like him a lot.
Yeah, I feel he gets credited a lot because he was really good as a young player, but I just haven't really seen him develop too much this year. The shot is a weapon, more so.
He's really athletic.
Yeah, he's athletic, and that athleticism doesn't really translate as much as I wish it would to defense, where he still sort of struggles. And that three ball, which is probably his biggest attribute, has really only manifested itself in catch and shoot situations, mostly off of like Jokic assists. Whereas like as a point guard, I wish he could sort of expand that skill set to off the dribble. But like you were saying, his athleticism and his ability to sort of cut to the basket, especially in Denver's offense, makes him like not a very good, but makes him a somewhat effective second scoring option next to a guy like Nikola Jokic. So
where's my boy Devontae Graham at in your list?
Devontae Graham failed to make the top 30.
Really?
Yeah, I put him at 31. He was an honorable mention.
He's 31?
Yeah, far too.
Dang.
I know another controversial one probably. I'm not a big Devontae Graham guy, just far too limited on offense. Basically turns into a zero as soon as he steps in front of that 3-point line, and pretty much no defensive chops whatsoever. So the 3-point shooting is cool. Obviously makes some flashy deep shots, but his far too many holes in his game for my taste.
Where you got Terry?
Terry, I actually didn't put him in this list mostly because he's played shooting guard for the Hornets this year.
Oh, my bad.
No, but you're right, though. His natural position's point guard. So if he had been playing point guard this year, I probably would have had him. Honestly somewhere around Devontae Graham. Probably somewhere ahead. I actually like Terry slightly more. I probably would have had him in the high 20s, probably like 28 or 29.
Dude, why are the Hornets low-key kind of stacked?
I mean,
like they obviously don't put their they don't have like the wins, but I like some of the players on their team.
Yeah, they're just very, very young right now. And
what's Malik Monk like? Is he good?
No, he's got that PED suspension at the end of the year.
Oh,
but
really?
Yeah, he's athletic. The shot is promising, but it's never really come together for him. It feels like it's just one of those guys who frustrates you because he has got so much potential, such an explosive athlete. He's shown like promising shooting at times, but he's never really been able to sort of put it together.
Got it. Yeah. I just remember he was on who?
Kentucky,
yeah.
Yeah, so the Hornets. The Hornets have a lot of young pieces, but it's really tough for me to see a future for them right now just because none of them really – I don't think like the next star of the Charlotte Hornets is on the team yet, which is kind of troubling.
What do you think about Kobe White?
I like Kobe White.
Is he in your top 30?
No, he was not in the top 30, but he's a guy who can definitely get there for sure. He only started probably like 3 or 4 games at point guard before the season got shut down, but he can put the ball in the basket.
I think he'll be a difference maker for the Bulls for sure.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I'm high on Kobe White. I don't know if I see him as a starting point guard just because the passing is so limited for him still, but he's
Dude,
a
I just
fun
need to
player
pick the
watch.
shit out of your brain about the NBA because you know so much, and I am like, I know players, but I don't know like in depth what their strengths and weaknesses are. So I just gotta ask you stuff, and I'll just begin to remember.
All right, let's do it. I guess getting back to my list, at number 23, I had Lonzo Ball.
Okay.
And I like Lonzo because he plays very, very solid defense. He gives
his passing's
effort.
Unreal.
His passing's very, very good. His defense is sturdy all the time. He has such a great connection already with Zion, which is what you love to see. Just those hit-ahead passes in transition.
Yeah.
Just yesterday, I think it was, he hit Drew Holiday from like the other free throw line, and he hit Drew Holiday underneath the basket for an and one layup.
Really?
Yeah, like literally no joke. Like Lonzo Ball, if he wasn't a point guard, he could be like a quarterback. Just like some of his passes, it's just like, how does he do it? He puts the ball on the money every time.
Mm-hmm. Dude, it's crazy that he's only 22.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Like these guys are so freaking young.
Right.
I think of him as like not like a seasoned vet, obviously, but he's already experienced so much.
Mm-hmm. Especially being on the Lakers and all, getting all that attention. But the thing I really have loved to see for Lonzo this year was actually the 3-point shot really started to come around, and he hits threes very consistently off of catch and shoot situations, which I expect him to get more of, just due to the fact that I think Zion has a ton of gravity and will probably draw a lot of defenders, and is an above average passer for what you might expect of a Zion archetype player. And so I think Lonzo will get plenty of opportunities with the improved catch and shoot 3. He even shows the ability to hit him off the dribble, which if you told me that 3 years ago, I would have laughed in your face, but here we are. And so the real thing that's holding Lonzo back is just an absolute inability to finish around the rim or even anywhere close to the rim. Like as soon as he steps inside the 3-point line, like some players like have good touch on like floaters or layups or stuff like that. Like a guy like Kyrie Irving obviously comes to mind as the best at that. Yeah. Lonzo has like the opposite of that. Like the ball bounces off the backboard just so poorly when it's Lonzo shooting. Like he can't, I don't know, whatever it is.
He's had a lot of difficulty shooting.
Yeah, for real. He just can't figure that sort of inside game out yet. And so that really holds him back because he's just not a threat to score himself off the dribble. So until he's able to figure that aspect of the game out, it's going to be really hard for him to move up this list.
Dude, you know who's actually a disappointment? I keep cutting you off, but like Markelle Fultz.
Oh, yeah. And Markelle is actually a guy who took a big step forward this year. And
I heard that he was getting better.
Yeah, he's like quietly reviving a career for himself in Orlando.
That's good to see.
Yeah, but he's still, you're right.
He was plagued with injuries at the beginning of his career.
And he's never going to be anywhere near the player like obviously we hoped he could be when he was the number 1 overall pick. But it's looking like he could at least carve out a career for himself, which looked like it was in jeopardy a few months ago even. So, good for him.
Looking at that 2017 draft, there's some studs in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Like, I'm just looking at the top. I mean, you got Markelle, Lonzo, Jason, De'Aaron Fox, Jonathan Isaac, Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, for sure. Even going down the list, wasn't that Zach Collins' draft year?
Yeah, he was picked 10th, and then Malik Monk 11. Justin Jackson's in there.
Yeah, and Justin Jackson, man. But yeah, that's definitely a good draft class for sure. You mentioned a name that we might even get to later on the.
Oh, and Kuzma and Josh Hart.
What was Kuzma? Wasn't he like 23 or 24 or something?
He was 27.
27. Yeah.
And then Josh Hart. You like Josh Hart, right?
Oh yeah.
Remember Frank Mason? Was he from Kansas?
Yeah, he actually played today for the Bucks.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's cool.
Yeah.
I always remember, I don't know what it is, but some of these guys like Trey Burke and like Devontae Graham and like Frank Mason, those guys, they always stick in my mind. I don't know what it is, but like these point guards that handle the ball a lot, that you watch college games for some reason, they just like get embedded in my mind.
Yeah. And it's funny. So anyway, I guess I'll get back to my list. Number 22, Jalen Brunson, solid backup point guard for the Dallas Mavericks. Not a lot of holes in his game. He can shoot the ball. A very smart playmaker. Very, very smart playmaker. Actually, I'd say very underrated playmaker. Just great feel for running the offense. Not an explosive athlete, which holds him back because it's just obviously tough to score inside when that's not the case.
Does he not play a lot?
Well, he's hurt right now, so he hasn't
hurt.
playing. During the regular season, he played significant minutes. So yeah, limited defensively, but he gives effort, which is what you can ask for. Kind of a guy, I guess most people would probably describe him as boring just because he kind of quietly runs the offense and gets things done. But he's just one of those guys who you can trust with the ball in their hands, which is obviously super important for a point guard. Number 21, Ricky Rubio. The thing about Ricky Rubio that's awesome is that he just instantly provides a fast-paced offense, and he kind of goes downhill attacking the defense, sort of like Lonzo. He likes to find those hit-ahead passes in transition and sort of create advantages that way, which is a very valuable trait for a point guard because it obviously leads to easy buckets. He's very flashy in his sort of like pass. He has a knack for those sort of flashy behind the back passes. Just today, I want to say, today against the Clippers, he was able to thread a pass through the defender's legs that led to an assist.
He's on the who?
He's on the Suns right now. He's obviously very limited as a three-point shooter, which probably is one of the
fact that he's on the right side of 30 still is mind-boggling to me. He's been playing forever.
He came into the league so young, though.
Dude.
What is he, though? He's probably 29, right?
Yeah, he's 29.
Yeah. Obviously, the limited three-point shooting holds him back just so freaking much because as a point guard, having a three-point shot just opens up the rest of the offense so much. So without
because you have to have someone press on you. That probably helps a lot.
Yeah, so without like that three-point shot, it's just pretty damn near impossible to be elite, especially when you consider the fact that he's nowhere near like anything special as an athlete.
When he was on the Jazz, didn't he have I feel like he hit some shots.
Yeah,
I mean, he's obviously capable, but he's just not as consistent.
I'm sure he's like, if you can go ahead and fact check this too. I'm sure he's like between a 30 and a 32% three-point shooter, but it's just like that's not gonna get it done on low volume.
He's actually had a better season this year. He's up to 36 this year, but his career he's just a shade under 33.
Yeah,
so he's actually had a better.
Yeah, and I'm sure most of that is off of catch and shoot situations, which is fine. But yeah, just that part of his game is still somewhat limited. He's kind of like a Lonzo Ball type, but with just more ability in a half-court setting. And so as we go to number 20, Derrick Rose is a guy who's revived his career. Just so versatile on offense, especially now that he can kind of shoot the three ball. He can pull up from mid-range. He's obviously still tremendously good at attacking the basket. He can't play as many minutes as he used to, and the passing isn't as good as some other guys I've mentioned. But I think of all the guys I've read off so far, he's the best scorer. And so as a guy who you kind of can bring off your bench to just get you some buckets when your second team of offense is out there. It's hard to do better than a guy like Derrick Rose, who's just been breaking down defense for years now.
Wait, so name off. So your last 10 have been who?
Yeah, so 30, Jeff Teague. 29, Kendrick Nunn. 28, TJ McConnell. 27, Mike Conley. 26, George Hill. 25, DJ Augustine. 24, Jamal Murray. 23, Lonzo Ball. 22, Jalen Brunson. 21, Ricky Rubio. And 20, Derrick Rose.
I feel like Jamal Murray can score.
Yeah, he definitely can. It's just...
But I agree with you. Derrick Rose is probably the best scorer out of that top 10.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. And Jamal, like, maybe it's just because he doesn't have the ball as much in his hands because of Jokic that we haven't gotten the chance to see it. But yeah, he's a better shooter than Derrick Rose. And it's like, honestly, you're right. Like, it's just because, like, Derrick Rose is on the Pistons, which is obviously, like, the Pistons are way worse than the Nuggets. So, like, Derrick Rose probably gets more opportunities to create his shots just because his teammates are worse. So maybe if you saw Jamal Murray on a team where he got more freedom as a ball handler, you could see him pick up some of that responsibility. But just until I see it, I don't know if I can trust Jamal Murray to sort of be like that every down running back like Derrick Rose is.
Yeah.
And that's actually an analogy I sort of use a lot for basketball players, is like in football, an every down back is sort of like a guy who you can keep going back to, and he's pretty much good in like any sort of situation. Like Derrick Rose is a guy who you can just allow to create the offense on like not every possession, but like you can allow him to create offense on like 5 straight possessions in the third quarter, and he'll get an efficient shot on all of those possessions. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like he's just a guy who can
trust.
Yeah, and he can single-handedly lead an offense.
Which is so interesting to think about because, I don't know, like he was obviously so good for the Bulls, gets injured, and then kind of wasn't the same player.
Yeah, and has kind of been reviving his career the past couple of years, which you love to see.
Yeah.
So as we get to the teams, number 19, I have a guy who is in borderline but not really contention for a sixth man of the year, and that is Goran Dragic, who unfortunately we saw him leave the game against the Celtics tonight with an injury, but we found out that it was just an ankle sprain and nothing was broken or anything, so that's good news there. Goran Dragic is a guy who, again, is getting older, but still has all the tricks you want on offense. He is insane. Well, not insanely. He's very, very good off the pick and roll. Just a great feel for the game. Never really moving too fast. Always kind of the slower, more methodical motion where he puts the defender behind him and just can sort of read the defense like a book and find his teammates, whether that's like the roll man or a guy in the corner. So yeah, great decision maker on offense, great feel for passing, and obviously a tremendous shooter at pretty much every level. Like his floater game is still very good. Even off the dribble, he can knock down 3-pointers, and getting to the basket, he consistently is able to finish around and over centers and taller defenders. So even as he moves on into sort of the later stages of his career, Goran Dragic is a guy who I like very much.
I like him too.
Yeah. Number 18, the guy who what's that?
Because he can score.
Oh, yeah.
Or at least in 2K he could score. That's why I liked him.
Yeah. And then number 18 is the guy who I do think actually will win the Sixth Man of the Year award, and that is none other than Dennis Schroeder of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Has been part of the best clutch lineup in the league so far this year. And, he has always sort of been this for his career, score first point guard.
Yeah.
Which is why he's never going to be a very good starting point guard, is just because, like, the passing for Schroeder is not there yet. But when you play alongside guys like Chris Paul and Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, you don't really need to have that elite level of passing, and that's really allowed Schroeder to flourish in his role as just sort of that off the bench spark plug scorer.
What's keeping him from transitioning to just being like a shooting guard? Height,
honestly,
size,
yeah,
or what?
yeah, I think that's right. Like size, and then he's always going to be that guy who kind of wants the ball in his hands, creating shots for himself, even though he's good as an off-ball guy. I just think that probably he more would want to play point guard, but I definitely think you're correct. Like, I think Schroeder would honestly benefit from moving to shooting guard at this point in his career. He'd be undersized there, sure, but there are plenty of undersized shooting guards who are successful in the NBA these days.
I like Dennis Schroeder.
Yeah, I like him a lot too. Even though he's far from a great defender, I don't even know how I'd say he's a good defender. He tends to take possessions off on defense, but when he locks in, he's got tremendously quick feet. He can get up in guys' faces, apply a lot of pressure. So in a close game, he's a guy who you can count on to play good defense. I just don't know if over the course of, like, if you had him play 30 minutes, he wouldn't be playing good defense for that entire period of time.
Yeah, definitely size is a factor.
Yeah, size is a factor. What is he? Probably like 6'2", 6. Yeah, right. 6'2".
He's listed at 6'1", so
6'1". Wow. Yeah. So,
but he's long as shit, though.
Yeah.
He looks long, at least.
And he's quick. He's quick too, which is very important. Number 17 is a similar sort of player, just better, and that's Spencer Dinwiddie, another one of those sort of score first point guards. It's just that Spencer is way better at it. Maybe not better going to the hoop. He's not a better finisher, I wouldn't actually say, than Schroeder, but just his ability for off the dribble three-pointers and mid-rangers, especially this year when Kyrie's been hurt and he's had a lot of responsibility in the Brooklyn Nets offense. He's just been very, very, very impressive to me.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And I don't know if this is going to happen, but, like, honestly, you'd love to see Brooklyn trade him just so he doesn't have to be Kyrie's backup.
Dude, he honestly, who even knows with Kyrie, though? There's always something going down.
There's that injury. There's always the injury risk that he's just going to sit out for some reason. But you can always be secure knowing Spencer Dinwiddie's your backup. Also, it's hard to sort of quantify stuff like this just because who knows, like, really what's causing it. But he's one of the clutchest guys in the league for me. He has a knack for just sort of hitting those big shots at the end of games. He's the type of guy who embraces that sort of responsibility. He has a flair for the dramatics, which is, I don't know why, but that's something I like out of my point guard. I like my
big-ass point guard.
What's that?
The big-ass point guard, too.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking when I hear Spencer Dinwiddie or whatever, immediately it comes to mind his size.
Yeah.
Because he's not a small guy.
Yeah. What's his height, like 6'3" or 6'4"?
No, he's 6'6".
He's 6'6". Wow.
Yeah. That's something I knew before. I knew he was a big guy. That's why I was that's a big deal.
Yeah, and that I'm sure probably helps with his off the dribble threes. He's got a quick release, and so that height and quick release allows him to get that shot off. And so I think we've said enough about Spencer Dinwiddie. Awesome offensive point guard.
Yeah,
Nets are going to be extremely lucky to have him as a sixth man.
They drafted him, right?
I don't think so.
Oh, no. They didn't?
No, I don't believe so. You can double check that, but I'm pretty sure this isn't the first stop of his career. Number 16 is a guy who burst out onto the scene last year and had another really strong campaign this year for the Indiana Pacers, Malcolm Brogdon. Just a very smart player.
Yeah, the Pistons got him.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Malcolm Brogdon's good.
Very smart player. His connection with Domantas Sabonis, especially as like the lead guard in their Pacers pick and roll this year, has been very fun to watch. His ability to sort of go off the screen and pull up for mid-rangers or floaters is very close to being unmatched by the rest of the guys on this list. Obviously, he can knock down threes with the best of them. He doesn't have the range of like a Damian Lillard or a Kyrie Irving, obviously. But if you just want a guy to come off that pick and roll screen and just fire from at the 3-point line, like Malcolm Brogdon's your guy.
He reminds me a lot of Devin Booker.
Yeah, that's sort of an interesting comparison. Yeah, there are definitely some similarities in their game. Both of them are obviously good shooters.
That's mostly what.
Yeah. If anything, I kind of am disappointed and not disappointed, but Brogdon.
I would hope not. He's in like your top freaking like what is this number again?
Number 16.
Yeah, this is your top 20. He's 45.
Yeah, he's a fine passer. He's not the most imaginative passer out of everybody on this list. He doesn't have like the creativity of a Ricky Rubio or a Lonzo Ball. He's not gonna provide pace for your offense. But if you just want like that half court floor general who can manipulate the defense and hit shots, Malcolm Brogdon, you could do a lot worse than Malcolm Brogdon.
I have a question. So like when you're making this list of 45 different guys, what you're only naming your top 30, like what differentiates a 16 from like a 7? Was like, you know what I mean though? Because like, are some of these guys pretty freaking close to like in skill wise, you know? Because I feel like when you spread it out that much, it's like so close. And there's some guys that just are a little bit better. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And everybody sort of has like a different idea of what an ideal point guard should be, which is why like my list would be different from your list, which would be different from like somebody else's list. Like, spoiler alert, I have Trae Young at number 5, and a lot of people would say I'm crazy because Trae is just so freaking bad on defense. But I don't necessarily think defense is the most important trait for a point guard to have. When I look for my point guard, I just kind of want someone who can give me automatically a good offense. And since Trae has like such an insane skill level at stuff that's important on offense, like I can look the other way when it comes to his terrible defense. But obviously, like I said, some people might say, oh, like the defense is a deal breaker and he's not even in my top 10. Yeah, either way, just I guess back to your original point, like, yeah, that I definitely, some of it's just like splitting hairs. Some of these guys are so close. I just kind of have to decide which player's skills I would value the most on like an NBA team.
100%.
And so I guess that moves us on to number 15. Speaking of limited players, D'Angelo Russell, who me and you saw in person this year.
Yes, 100%.
He was
kept us in the game.
Yeah, back when he was on the Golden State Warriors. I just kind of have to clear this up. When Kellen says help kept us in the game, he by no means is implying that I would ever root for the Golden State Warriors.
Who knows, though? Who knows? Someday you might. I mean, you turn on the Beavs, and that seemed pretty like – it didn't seem like that was very likely.
Well, I mean, in order to turn on the Beavs, I had to attend the University of Oregon. So unless I get drafted by the Golden State Warriors, I don't know. Yeah, but that's neither here nor there. So let's get back to D'Lo, who, Spencer Dinwiddie, D'Angelo Russell is now the best scorer on this list that I've mentioned so far. He's obviously a sniper from beyond the arc, off the dribble, deep threes. You got it. He likes
to take some crazy shots, though.
He likes to take some crazy shots. Like I was saying before, he's one of those clutch guys with a flair for the dramatics. He's even got it tatted on his chest, which is something you love to see. You know the one I'm talking about, where it says like now, and it's like the digital clock symbol.
No, I haven't seen it. No.
Sick, but
yeah, dude, it was so funny. Like they literally when they roll out with D'Lo, and then they have a lot, and then Lee, Damian, and then they have like Willie Cauley-Stein.
Yeah,
they look like thugs. It's so funny. Yeah. Like Willie Cauley-Stein. I like Willie Cauley, but
Willie Cauley-Stein. If I was a little kid, I would probably be scared of Willie Cauley-Stein because
he was actually terrifying.
Yeah, man, it's so strange looking. But anyway, back to D'Angelo Russell. Like I said, great 3-point shooter. One of the best mid-range shooters on this list. He's just so crafty. He's not athletic. He's not fast, but he's just so good with the ball in his hands that he can generate space on those.
He's a very smooth player.
He's very, very smooth, and that's why he's an effective player in the mid-range, even when that's not necessarily considered an effective shot in the modern NBA.
Yeah, when I think of him, I think of fluidity and like good like body control.
Absolutely, yeah, that's a great point. And then getting to the bucket, he's not he's far, far, far from being an athletic NBA player. So he has trouble finishing over a lot of the better defenders in the NBA. But that's where his craftiness comes in. I want you to look this up for me really quick. He gets to the line so much. How many free throws does he shoot per game? It's probably high, I would imagine. Probably upwards of like 6 or 7.
What would I look at D'Angelo Russell free throws per game?
Yeah, or just go to like his stats on ESPN or whatever, and it'll have him in the box score.
Oh,
but yeah, even though D'Lo is not athletic enough to be an effective scorer on field goal attempts that are close to the basket, he really is effective from there too, because he can generate contact and turn those into free throws. So he's an efficient
4.6.
Oh, only 4.6. What?
Is that what it's free throw? It's the FT.
Yeah, that would be right. What's FTA?
I'm only seeing FT and FT percentage.
Oh, okay.
You might have to do the fact check on that.
Yeah, here.
I want to see what James Harden's is.
Ooh, I want to say it's like 8 point something, but I thought D'Lo was kind of getting closer to that James Harden level, but I guess not. I guess he's still a little bit behind. But he does.
The Warriors they struggled to get to the line a lot.
Yeah, and yeah, I guess so. But yeah. So anyway, D'Lo, I'd say, is a very versatile scorer on offense. He's not the best passer. He doesn't really want to pass either, which is troubling. And he's terrible on defense. So moving on to a guy who's not terrible on defense, that's number 14, Fred VanVleet, who has played so well in the NBA restart. He's earned himself the nickname Fred Velvet, which is cool, I think, just because of how smooth he is. It's crazy to think that this guy is still a backup point guard, which maybe the Knicks can change that for him.
James Harden's up to 10.3 to 12 free throws a game.
Crap. Yeah, that's a lot.
It's increased. It's slowly increased throughout his years with the Rockets.
Yeah, I don't think he had that many tonight, which is good. Blazers kind of kept that away from him. It's all those 3-shot fouls from too. When you're getting them 3 at a time, they add up fast.
That's one of my biggest pet peeves in the NBA, though.
3-shot fouls.
Yeah. I hate how I feel like you should be able to contest a shot up until, you know what I mean? It's just frustrating to see them release it and then come down because they didn't go up and down, and then they get called for a foul.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah. So anyway, you're right though. It's all about like protecting the shooter.
I know, because that's a lot of you could come down on your ankle weird.
Yeah. So anyway, Fred VanVleet, sort of weirdly similar. Well, not really similar. Yeah, not really similar to D'Angelo Russell. Fred VanVleet though. He's a good player in the pick and roll. He's a better passer than D'Angelo Russell. He's a knockdown 3-point shooter. Maybe not as creative or versatile or dynamic off the dribble as a guy like D'Angelo Russell, but I would say just a better like knockdown catch and shoot guy than D'Lo is, which is big. He pushes the ball in transition, does a good job of getting to the basket, drawing fouls in transition, sometimes even finishing, although his sort of small stature wouldn't really help him out with that much at all. On defense, Fred is a dog. He competes super hard. He gets steals.
I hate Fred VanVleet. Yeah, he literally ruined the Warriors.
Yeah.
Every time the Warriors, bro. Every single time.
So you can probably...
We hit a 3 or take the lead. That little midget just chucks up a 3-ball and it went in from way beyond the arc.
Yeah, he's got some depth to that jumper, but you can probably attest to it. Like Fred VanVleet is the real deal, isn't he?
Yeah, he's so good, dude.
Yeah, so I got him.
He's what made that finals work for them.
Yeah. I want to say, like, I don't know how many people get to vote for finals MVP. Ooh. It's like ballpark 25. I forgot. It's probably like 26 or 27. Anyway, last year during the finals, I was talking about how for the finals MVP, I'm not sure how many people get to vote, but it's like 25, 26, 27. I'm pretty sure somewhere around there. Anyway, last year, Kawhi Leonard won it nearly unanimously. One vote went to somebody else, and that was Fred VanVleet, which kind of shows you how like big Fred VanVleet stepped up and played in the NBA finals last year. Just like media people and stuff. I think it's probably like the same group of people who vote for like any other NBA awards.
Yeah.
So yeah, Fred VanVleet, definitely a guy I like. Number 13, a guy, probably the worst offensive guy we've touched on in a while, which is, I know, somewhat hypocritical because I said offense is the most important thing for point guard, but this guy is just so good defensively that I can let it slide a little bit. And that is Eric Bledsoe. And Eric Bledsoe, athletic, crazy strong, just...
When they added him to the Bucks, that was a good move.
Yeah, and he's one of those guys who's just a brick wall on defense. Like, it's very tough to get past him. He fights through screens so well. You can nearly impose. Aside from Drew Holiday, and maybe Marcus Smart, Eric Bledsoe is probably one of the harder guys to screen in the NBA. He can place. He can compete in the post, which is obviously not important because you're not asking your point guard to do it very often, but it's cool. On offense, he's an explosive athlete, which helps him out in terms of getting to the hoop and stuff. Obviously, on the Bucks system, like Giannis has the ball so much in his hands that it's almost like hard to judge what Eric Bledsoe would be as a point guard on a normal basketball team where he actually had more responsibility. So, like, honestly, if nothing else in the Bucks, he has asked to like catch and shoot a lot, which he's fine with. Obviously, the playoffs was a huge storyline, how much he struggled in that particular area. But his repertoire is definitely limited offensively. He's not a scorer by any stretch of the imagination, but he's just the best guy on this list defensively. So I had to have him in the top 15. And so that's why he kind of settled in at 13 for me. Number 12 is your guy, Ja Morant. Rookie season, he was awesome. Like, he's already one of the funnest players. He's one of the funnest players to watch. Insane athleticism. I know I keep touching on this, but I love my point guards to sort of have that flair for the dramatic and sort of that excitement to their game, and Ja has that more than anybody. Yeah. Some of the dunks he tries in games are just ridiculous. It's tough for me to put him any higher than 12, even though he was so good. And that's just because we really haven't seen him in any high leverage games. And so much of what a point guard is like, how do they run an offense when a defense is really keying in on trying to stop the most.
I feel like he's such a big time player. When he gets the opportunity, he's going to be okay.
Yeah, I would.
But it's only time will tell, though. We have never seen it. But I don't think he's going to have an issue.
I would have to see it first, just because with those smaller guys, and I'm not saying this will happen to, well, I mean, it has happened to Ja a little bit. Like, when you throw pressure at him, he's one of the best. Like, his decision-making for a rookie has been insane. But when people have trapped him or tried to throw double teams, it's just gotten a little shakier for Ja, which, I mean, obviously it will. He's so young. But
I agree with you. When you have the person that touches the ball the most, you want, like, it makes it so much more exciting when they have the big playability.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And Ja obviously is the full package. he can shoot it well enough. He's even started experimenting with some like step back threes and sort of off the dribble, and he's been okay
he's
with it.
He's going to be a well-rounded point guard.
Yeah. Obviously, he's super athletic getting to the hoop. His just creativity off the dribble is almost only matched by a few of the guys on this list. So, yeah, there are very few holes in Ja Morant's game. He competes defensively, even if he's not big enough to sort of be a lead on that end. Like, yeah, Ja Morant is a solid point guard. And if I don't think...
Would you rather have Trae Young over Ja?
That's a good question. Just
because you have Trae Young at 5.
I have Trae Young way ahead of Ja right now.
And you also... Trae hasn't played in any high-profile games.
You're right. Yeah. Going forward, I would probably... It all depends on team situation. Like, if I knew I could build a team that would mask Trae Young's defensive limitations, like, I'd take him over damn near any point guard in the NBA. But if it was
you wouldn't take him over Dame.
No, well, yeah, that's why I said nearly. But but I just think Trae is still a much better offensive player than Morant is. But yeah, Morant, insane rookie year. One of the best rookie point guards we've ever seen. Just the fact that he made the top 12 as a rookie is extremely impressive. So, yeah, that's what I have to say about him. Number 11. Yes, special for sure. Number 11, I went De'Aaron Fox. Similar sort of player to Ja Morant in that he's super quick, likes to push the ball, freaking athletic as all get out. He is a better shooter than Ja Morant. He's a little bit better at getting to mid-range pull-ups than Ja Morant is. He's not as explosive around the basket as Ja. Not necessarily meaning he's a worst finisher, just he can't go over and through bigger defenders as well as Ja does.
Isn't De'Aaron Fox one of the fastest guys in the NBA?
Yeah, if not the fastest. I think if you were to have like a foot race, De'Aaron would probably win it. But anyway, like around the basket,
he's got a lot.
What?
That's saying a lot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Saying a lot.
Yeah. But I think he's got it though. Mm-hmm. Around the basket, like he's just so impressive with that double pump move he goes to so often. Like as one of the smaller, more skinny, slender guards in the league, he is surprisingly one of the best at finishing when he gets around the hoop. And so
he looks just like my cousin.
Really?
Yeah, because like he looks just like, I'll have to show you a picture sometime, but yeah, he looks just like him. It's scary.
Yeah. And the thing about De'Aaron Fox is we've still never seen him with a great or even a decent offensive center, and so that would be a huge revelation. I have a feeling that there's a ton of untapped potential there. But as of now, I have De'Aaron Fox at number 11. Number 10, I had a guy who played pretty well today and has played pretty well in limited minutes due to injury. No, Kemba Walker.
Oh.
Devin I put as a shooting guard just because
my bad. He's a shooting guard.
Yeah. So number 10, I had Kemba Walker, great shooter, good passer, great mid-range shooter, not the best defender, but he gives a lot of effort, which is able to mask over most of his shortcomings there.
He's been good in Boston.
Yeah. And it's going to be interesting to see how he does in the playoffs, because obviously this won't be his first time in the playoffs. He made it with Charlotte, but let's be honest, Charlotte was never a real contender while Kemba was there. So this will be his first like high leverage playoff games with a real contender. And so that's going to tell me a lot about where he's at. I have a bad feeling that teams are sort of going to hunt him defensively and try to generate switches where they can sort of attack him one-on-one. And then on the other end, like Boston has so many.
What do you mean attack him one-on-one? Does he struggle?
Well, if you if you got him on like a bigger guy, like let's say
Oh,
they played Philadelphia first round, like I don't think he'd be able to guard Tobias Harris. I don't think he'd be able to guard Ben
oh, you
Simmons.
mean defensively?
Yeah, defensively, yeah,
Oh,
right.
oh.
Yeah.
I was gonna say because I thought he's pretty. I don't think it really matters who's guarding him. If a big
No.
guy's guarding him, I feel like that's a mismatch for the big guy.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, and that's one of the things about Kemba is he's great at attacking those mismatches. He's so quick off the dribble that he can shoot it. He's like a threat to shoot at pretty much any moment just because he's so quick on his feet and he's got such a quick release that he can generate space and get a shot at the rim in a heartbeat. And he's a good 3-point shooter, and so that makes him extremely dangerous. He doesn't have quite as much range as like a Dame or a Trey, but he's almost as good as those guys at creating a 3-pointer when he's one-on-one against a defender. Number 9 is a guy who I think is underrated. I don't know how many people would have him above Kemba Walker. That's Kyle Lowry.
Yeah, he's good.
He's not the most talented guy in the world. Not even the best shooter, although he has improved at that. But he just tries so hard, and he does all the little things that you love to see. He always makes the right pass. He's the best point guard in the NBA at drawing charges, which is kind of turned into like his trademark skill, is that he just puts his body on the line every night for the Raptors. There's not a player in the NBA that that Kyle wouldn't step in front of. And so
like he's not young either.
No, he's not. That guy's got a lot of heart. Obviously, he's a champion. He just is the definition of a guy who has a winning team first mentality, which is exactly what you want from your point guard. And it helps that he's a very solid playmaker, very solid shooter. His floater game has still somehow, even in his older age, been improving. So I think even though he's not like the most dynamic, most explosive offensive player, like if you have Kyle Lowry, you are far from guaranteed to have a good offense. But I just think all the little intangible things combined with being neither a liability on defense or offense make him a very good, valuable player.
Where's John Wall on your list?
So I didn't include John Wall this time just because
he hasn't played.
He's been out for so long that I have no idea like how he'll come back. So like I kind of
where would he be?
Yeah, if he came back completely healthy, I kind of bailed myself out here. But if he came back completely healthy, like we remember him, he probably would be right around where I'm at right now. He'd probably be borderline top 10 sort of caliber guy.
Yeah.
But I would be shocked if he comes back that healthy. I don't expect him to be very good next year just because he's been out for so long. And those muscle tears are always the toughest injuries to come back from, especially for a guy who relied on athleticism as much as John Wall did. I kind of fear the worst from.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, moving on to number 8 is a guy who's frustrated people at times, but is still one of the most unique and valuable players at the point guard position, and that's Ben Simmons.
Obviously, best scorer in the NBA.
Best scorer. Yeah. Great defender, great hands, great instincts, great at jumping lanes. Yeah, huge guy, 6'10", massive for the point guard position. Great at jumping passing lanes, great at steals, applies pressure on anybody he's guarding, which he can guard any position too. He's better against guards, I think, but he's certainly tall enough to compete with forwards.
Oh God, yeah, dude, he could guard a center.
Yeah, against a guy and against like the more physical post heavy centers, I don't like him just because he's a little bit light in the shorts. But yeah, for sure against for sure against like power forwards and
Yeah.
mobile guys. I like him a lot. Offensively, the big thing is he can't shoot threes, but that hasn't really prevented him from being an effective offensive player. He can push the ball in transition the way like a Giannis or a Pascal Siakam. Obviously, he's not as good at finishing as those guys are, but the way he just is a one-man, grab the rebound, get out and transition on the fast break, dunker, lay it in, like that. He sort of resembles those two guys. You would love to see the layups go in more for him. He doesn't hit them all that often as you would expect for a 6'10" point guard.
Yeah.
Obviously, no three-pointer, no mid-range, very little.
No 3-pointer. What?
Yeah, very little float game. So that is obviously a massive monster handicap that pretty much.
What's his career 3-point percentage?
Shoot, I don't even know. He's taken so few of them.
It's like 8.
It's 8?
Yeah, it's like 9.
Wow. Yeah, and most of those aren't even real three-pointers. They're like half-court heaves as the buzzer expires or something like that, so it barely even counts. So, yeah, the thing that worries me the most about Ben Simmons is not even his three-point shooting, but the foul shooting, because obviously he's most efficient when he's most effective when he's attacking the rim, but if defenses can just foul him and send him to the line and he's not going to make him pay for that, then that is a very major flaw in Ben Simmons' theory. And it's one that has kind of been exposed as he tends to like shy away from contact when he approaches the rim. And that is the opposite of what you would see from a guy like Ben Simmons in a perfect world. So although he's one of the best athletes, has about as much talent as any guy on this list, he just has so many holes offensively that there's either A, a lot of untapped potential, or B, he's just a very flawed player. Either way, number 8 for me. I've been talking for a long time. I almost have like a sore throat going here. But
yeah, I know. You've done a lot. You did your top 30, and you've literally, we are blessed with your NBA knowledge. I know, but after this, I'll talk for a while, unless you want to just call it quits. Because like this was a good episode. You literally, when you said you wanted to make this episode about NBA, you weren't joking.
No, I'm never joking about it.
I seriously doubt there's anything out there that's like top 30 list with a detailed analysis of each player that you list.
Yeah, probably for a reason, to be honest. Number 7 is a guy who we didn't see much of this year. And when we did see him, he was awesome. Kyrie Irving has pretty much everything you want from a offensive point guard. His handles are insane. He's probably the best one-on-one player on this list, to be honest. He can beat nearly any defender one-on-one off the dribble. He can beat them by shooting it off the dribble 3. His pull-up game is amazing for longer twos. His floaters around the basket are awesome. His touch at the rim is still unmatched by anybody on this list. Just an incredible score at all 3 levels. His passing has been inconsistent. He can be one of the better passers in the NBA, but oftentimes you see him more focused on finding shots for himself, as he should be. It's going to be interesting to see how he plays with a guy like KD. Somehow.
That's going to be really interesting to see, because you saw how much Steph sacrificed.
Yeah. If I had a bold prediction, it's going to be that the Nets are going to be a little bit disappointing next year, at least for the regular season. Maybe they get it figured out in time for the playoffs. Obviously, we're a very long way from even knowing whether or not we'll have a season next year, but I think it might take the Nets a little while to find their rhythm once we do. What else do I want to say about Kyrie? Not a very good defensive point guard. He has shown at times to have good hands. He can get steals. But a lot of that is, I don't want to say due to laziness, but he is one of those guys who will make an attempt to get a steal, and then either 1 out of 10 times he'll get it, and then the the other 10 times, that attempt will cause his guy to have an advantage and be able to beat him to the basket.
Mhm.
So Kyrie is one of those guys who might go for a steal in absence of actually playing defense, if that makes sense at all. So yeah, not a good defender, but I mean, I spent a while breaking down his offense. It's tough to beat. Kyrie Irving is pretty awesome. So number 6, we go to the most polarizing. Oh, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention what's really holding Kyrie back, because obviously what I said sounds like I'm describing a top 2 or 3 point guard. The attitude and injury problems are just a constant concern when it comes to Kyrie Irving, and that really weighs my mind when it comes to Kyrie. So that's what's preventing him from being even further up. Anyway, number 6 is the most polarizing, maybe not the most polarizing, but an extremely polarizing player, Russell Westbrook. One of the guys who I hate the most in the NBA, and I'm not even ashamed to admit that I don't care for Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, I don't really either.
An asshole. But he's good at basketball.
That's one thing that we can both agree on.
Yeah. Just his shot. It's not Ben's. Well, he shoots more than Ben Simmons does. Whether his shot is better or worse, it's honestly hard to tell. His mid-range shot is still, although it's very, very, very ineffective for him, he still kind of is able to use it as a weapon because most defenders still respect his mid-range. And honestly, even though you're not afraid of him shooting, you can't really back up off of him because you're just giving him more space to beat you off the dribble, which you can't allow. You kind of have to stay on him or else he's going to blow by you.
And he's more than capable of hitting shots anywhere on the court too. He definitely can. I've seen it plenty of times playing the Warriors.
Yeah.
I know it's not the best all the time, but he's...
Well, are you talking more about when he was on the Thunder?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, because he used to be able to shoot, but that skill has really kind of left him in the past year and a half or 2 years.
Yeah, that's what I've noticed in the past couple games that I've watched. He's definitely less of a threat.
Yeah, he's far from a shooter anymore, but attacking the basket, he's still as good as ever.
He's no one to take lightly, that's for dang sure.
He can post smaller guys up. That's how you get the rock the baby celebration that I hate so much. He's got that explosive athleticism around the rim. He can get from end zone to end zone in a matter of seconds and finish out the cup. Like, he's one of those guys who terrifies me because 1 second he's dribbling the ball at half court and the other second he has taken off and is a layup. And so a combination of speed and then just explosive athleticism once he gets to the rim is a very tough combination to stop, and it kind of keeps him in the mix for best point guards. One of the misconceptions about Russ, I think, is people automatically assume that since he's a terrific athlete, that translates into him being a good defender, which is actually false. I think Russell Westbrook, especially against elite point guards like your Damian Lillards and Stephen Curry's, he cannot compete with those guys whatsoever. His effort is oftentimes appalling. It sucks. He tries very rarely on defense. One of the times that stands out to me the most, and this is just because obviously I'm a big Blazer fan, so I watched this series very closely, is the Game 5 Portland OKC, obviously remembered for Damian Lillard's terrific buzzer beater. But a couple of possessions prior, CJ got a big mid-ranger, and it was because Dame fed him the ball. But when CJ initially received the pass, Russ was kind of standing there, hands on knees, sort of gathering his breath, not locked into a defensive stance, and it allowed CJ to get that first step and sort of beat him off the dribble and kind of catch Russ off balance. So, I mean, obviously that's just one example, but you can, when you pay attention closely to stuff like that, you can kind of see Russ taking possessions off of defense all the time, which is troubling. And here we get to my biggest nitpick about Russell Westbrook, which is why I would have a healthy Kyrie Irving ahead of him. If Ben Simmons could put together any sort of consistency, I'd have him ahead of Russ. Next year, I wouldn't be surprised if I found myself with John Morant ahead of Russ. Like, this is the main reason why I don't like Russ, is we touched on this earlier. Didn't he suck earlier this season? Like, I know, obviously, you pointed out that game he had against the Warriors where he failed to get anything going, was extremely inefficient, and almost took his team out of the game.
Missed easy shots, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Shots at the rim. All sorts of that nonsense.
Yeah, he missed the layups.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think I remember.
Yeah. And the thing is, that game was not an anomaly for Russ early in the season. He actually had quite a few games like that where he was inefficient. And that's not the case anymore. And the reason that is because they traded Clint Capella. And what that allowed the Rockets to do is play this 5-out lineup with 5 guys who are 6'7" or shorter. All 5 guys are very capable knockdown shooters, catch and shoot situations, except for Russ. But that allows Russ to have an open court to kind of get that head of steam and attack the basket with. When there's no Clint Capella clogging up the paint, forcing his defender to, or not forcing, when there's no Clint Capella in the paint, that means there's one less defender for Russ to compete with when he goes up for a layup. You know what I mean? So that's where we get to really what's the biggest knock against Russell Westbrook, in my opinion, is that he just has a very, 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 very tough time playing in a lineup that doesn't have 4 shooters next to him, which I think when you have to bend your team that much to accommodate a player, like how good really is that player? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like if you have to abandon a center who had been an important piece of and had been an important piece of your franchise for the past 2 years, and you just have to get rid of that guy just so your point guard isn't trash anymore. That's a knock against the point guard, because a guy like Dame, a guy like Steph, a guy like Kyrie, even a guy like John Morant, all those guys you could pretty much drop them into any situation and they'd be able to play well. And you cannot say that about Russell Westbrook, which is a red flag for me, a big red flag for me.
I agree.
Yeah. So that brings us to the top 5. And I've already said this. Number 5 is Trae Young. I touched on this before. Elite offensive player. Shoots deep threes as often and nearly as well as anybody else in the game. Has terrific handles, which allow him to beat pretty much any defender off the dribble. He's got an knack for those step back threes that are so prevalent in today's game. Once he gets inside, he hasn't shown a tremendous affinity for pulling up, but that's okay because his floater game is as good as anybody else on this list. He's as good in the pick and roll as anybody. That I just am dying to see him play with Clint Capella, because pair Trae with a screener who's a lob threat, I just think that unlocks so many options in the Hawks offense. I think that will allow Trae to be even more dynamic than he already is on offense. Has
Capella just been hurt?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but when you have a guy who's a vertical, so often we think about spacing in the sense that like a guy like Stephen Curry or Damian Lillard's going to attract defenders even when he's 40 feet away from the basket. So that opens up the court, right? I like to think about vertical spacing too, where which applies to a guy like Clint Capella, who is such a threat to catch lobs above the rim, and he can get up so high that as a defender you kind of have to be almost hugging him, or else Trae will just be able to throw it over the top of you. And I think when the center has to drop back so deep to cover Capella, I think that'll open up the floaters and layups for Trae Young, and I think that will be I think Clint will be a huge asset for Trae, and I think Trae will be way better than we've seen him next year. I think next year is going to be a big Trae Young year.
Yep.
And like I said before,
the Warriors
that?
when they play.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He's a very capable center. And like I said before, I feel comfortable calling Trae Young the worst defensive player that I'm going to read off today. And that obviously matters. Like, it's hard to win basketball games, especially in the playoffs, which hopefully we see Trae Young in the playoffs soon. It's hard to win basketball games when you have a guy who's as big of a liability on that end as Trae Young is. But when Steph Curry first got into the league, he was a bad defender too. And the Warriors were able to hide that partly because Steve Kerr's had a really good system where they did a lot of sort of backdoor switches and kind of kept Steph far away from the ball. So I guess we're going to hopefully see some of Lloyd Pierce's defensive chops.
Like he hasn't been that bad of a defender when Steve Kerr's been there. Maybe like when Mark Jackson was there.
Oh, yeah, no. And I'm saying like Steph's turned into a good defender, but like when the Warriors play him with Clay, Iggy, Draymond, he's always like the worst defender on the court. So he's always like the guy who you're trying to hide because you'd much rather have one of your better guys on ball. And that's kind of what I'm hoping Lloyd Pierce will be able to do with Trae, is sort of hide him. And if not, Trae is going to have to take a massive step up on defense because what he's got now just doesn't cut it.
Mm-hmm.
But tremendous offensive player, amazing passer, great handles. Obviously, he's got the shot. That's all I really need to say about Trae. Moving on to number 4, one of the best point guards of all time, probably the smartest player in the NBA, Chris Paul. I mean, what do you really need to say about Chris Paul? Just so smart.
Everything.
Every trick in the book, whether it's making the right passes, he always makes the right passes. They're not always the flashiest passes like you see with a Trae or a Luka or a John Morant, but he always makes the right decision.
Yeah.
Great at drawing fouls, which is not the funnest skill to be good at, but boy, does he make it an effective skill to be good at just because of his ability to get to the line and having that always be a threat to defenders. His mid-range is still as good as anybody on this list. I don't know if you watched any of the highlights of the Thunder Nuggets game from yesterday, but there were 2 possessions in a row where Bol decided he wanted to take on Chris Paul, and both possessions Chris Paul worked him one-on-one and was able to get a mid-ranger on the right side of the court. And that's like, obviously Chris Paul is an awesome player who can shoot over anybody. If you're Bol, obviously I know you're a rookie, but you gotta know to keep Trae Young off his right hand in that situation, or not Trae Young. You got to know to keep Chris Paul off his right hand in that situation. Like Chris Paul, his entire year has wanted to work to the right and pull up for the mid-ranger over guys, and he's effective at it, and he can do it over anybody, as he proved. He can do it over a freaking giant in Bol. So Chris Paul, still a good scorer on offense, one of the smartest players in the league, if not the smartest player, a very capable passer who makes the right decisions. Just probably of the floor general archetype I've been talking about, he is the best or the second best one. On defense, he's still a very good defender, great hands. You can't carry the ball around him loosely, or else Chris Paul is going to be able to poke it away from you. So He's a great player on offense, great player on defense, one of the best point guards of all time. Even though he's, I want to say 34 this year, he might as well be in his prime. He's still playing very well. So that's Chris Paul, number 4. Number 3 was an MVP candidate early in the year. This is one of my most controversial basketball opinions, but I have him as my most improved player of the year. Luka Doncic, the second-year player out of Slovenia. And what's surprised me about Luka this year is how he's improved as a ball handler and how that's helped him improve as a scorer. So obviously when you think of Luka, like he's kind of this like average looking, like
slow, kind of stiff looking,
out of shape. Yeah, slow, unathletic, white dude. He just looks like he could be some everyday guy. and he doesn't have that insane athleticism, but what he does have is craftiness. He's able to beat defenders by changing his pace as well as anybody. His handles are ridiculous. The way he looks off defenders, like uses his eyes and uses the threat of passes, because he's one of the best passers in the league. The way he can like look off defenders and kind of use his head to fake passes is unreal, and it helps him beat a lot of guys. In the pick and roll, he's a guy who I mentioned this with Trae Young. I think he pairs better with one of those vertical rim runner guys, just because it generates more space for him to make offense away from the rim. Here, I want to go on a little tangent right quick. Sorry. Yeah. For a guy like John Morant, whose best offensive trait is his ability to just go hard to the bucket and make athletic finishes around the rim, you want to pair him with a guy like a Jaren Jackson, who's more of a pick and pop threat than a pick and roll threat. Because when your big man fades on the pick and roll, that draws the big man defender away from the hoop, which will make it easier for a guy like John Morant to finish at the cup. For a guy like Luka Doncic or Trae Young, who likes to create most of their offense by like using either mid-rangers or floaters or even to a certain extent three-pointers, you want a guy who's going to roll to the rim, because if you have a guy with tremendous vertical gravity, and he'll suck his defender close to the basket, which obviously opens up more space to create a shot for a guy like Luka. And so that's why it was such a big blow to the Mavericks this year. I thought an underrated blow. It doesn't really get talked about too much, but I think the season-ending injury to Dwight Powell was just probably the worst thing that could happen, because even more than Kristaps, Powell was just a tremendous pick and roll partner for Luka Doncic. And I guess let's get into that partnership he has with Kristaps Porzingis. I know it's obviously been a kind of hot statistic floating around, is just how Kristaps' numbers have gotten worse when Luka's on the floor. And I think a lot of that just has to do with shooting luck. I don't think anything that Luka's doing is causing Kristaps to be less effective. Mm-hmm. But I also think that it's true that those two haven't necessarily worked out their chemistry quite yet. They haven't quite figured out what their thing is going to be. And I think it is getting better. Like Kristaps, his screens are getting more effective. He obviously, like I was saying, he's a guy who likes to fade when he sets screens. Kristaps Porzingis loves to shoot threes, which I don't necessarily think is the best thing you can pair alongside Luka Doncic, but he's figuring it out. On defense, he doesn't move his feet. He's not athletic. He is big, which helps, which he can compete somewhat in the post. He's got active hands, so he sometimes pokes away steals. He's got a great feel for the game on offense, and that translates to defense. He obviously always knows what's going on. He's sometimes one step ahead of the opposing offense, which is can make up for a lot of his disadvantages on that. And he's by no means an elite defensive player. He's probably not even an average defender. I'd probably put him as slightly below average. But when you're slightly below average on defense and as amazing and dynamic as Luka is on offense, that to me is the top 3 point guard. And I have him at number 3.
Yeah.
Now we get into the debate of the show. Number 2.
It's not really a debate, but
number 2,
Number
2, I had Steph Curry. You could make an argument that Steph Curry.
It's because he didn't play this year.
Yeah, it's because he didn't play this year. And you could make an argument that Steph is the best point guard of all time, and I wouldn't disagree with you. He's changed the game of basketball unlike hardly anybody we've seen in my lifetime, that's for sure. He can pull up from anywhere on the court. He's a great passer. Of everybody on this list, he's the guy who I like the most off ball. And that's why I've advocated for the Warriors drafting LaMelo Ball, just because I think Steph Curry is such a genius off ball. Like, he knows where to go. He knows how to use the threat of his shot to manipulate defenders around the court. That's why I think if you ever played with another guy who had a tremendous passing skill like LaMelo, especially a guy who likes to push it in transition like LaMelo, that could be a deadly combo.
Mm-hmm.
So, of all the guys on this list, Steph is by far the best off-ball guy, maybe one of the best off-ball guys of all time. Yeah. Obviously, I don't need to talk about his shooting. Everybody knows he's one of the best shooters of all time. If not he's the best shooter of all time. His passing is obviously very good. We even saw it in the Raptors game. Like, he didn't have a very good shooting game in that one game he came back against the Raptors, but his passing was still all the way there.
Yeah, he's just so good all around. His finishing is amazing.
Yeah, finishing is good. Floaters, you name it. Steph Curry's got it offensively. Defensively, like we said, he's not a good defender, but he's far, far, far from being a liability, which is really all you need from a guy like Steph, especially when his backcourt partner, Klay Thompson, is one of the best defenders at the guard position in the freaking NBA. So, yeah, Steph Curry, one of the best point guards of all time, if not the best point guard of all time. He was injured this year, so I had a hard time putting him at
He's arguably one of the best players of all time.
I mean, yeah.
So let's be real, though.
Yeah, I mean, define one of the best players of all time, because he's arguably top 10 all time.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. So he's
obviously not the best player of all time, but he's like one of the top 10 best players of all time.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. I just had a hard time putting him at number one. He's getting older. He was injured this year.
But when he was playing, he was good.
Yeah, when he was playing, he was good. Which was it 3.5 or 4.5 games?
I don't remember, but yeah.
I think they got housed by the Clippers. They got absolutely destroyed by the Thunder. And then he got injured in that Suns game, and he came back for that one game against the Raptors. So I'm pretty sure it was 3.5, unless I'm forgetting a game early in the season. But anyway, yeah, Steph Curry's number 2. It was close. Number 1, I put Damian Lillard. Had the best season of his career. In the midst of his season, late January, early February, went on one of the craziest scoring runs of all time, where there were 2 weeks where he was averaging 50 points a game. He's obviously the best deep 3-point shooter in the NBA. He's even past Steph at this point. He takes a ton of those threes. He's insane in the pick and roll. He knows how to shoot coming off of screens. He knows how to draw those fouls.
What do you mean he's past Steph?
Like in terms of deep shooting, like not even in terms of like he just is a more efficient shooter from 35 feet and away from the hoop.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a fact.
Yeah, it's a fact. I mean, and you could still say, like, if I needed somebody to shoot like a 40-footer to save my life, I might pick Stephen Curry. But, like, Damian Lillard's been more efficient than anybody in history at shooting those long missiles. And I would say the one area that I think, besides that I think Dame is better than Steph is going hard to the basket. I think Dame is maybe a little bit more athletic than Stephen Curry. And so Dame can come off that screen and just go hard to the hoop, and he can finish with either hand. He is great at reverse layups. He's great at like using his inside hand, using his outside hand. He can get it high off the glass. Like, he's a great finisher at the cup. He's a great isolation player. He's really added this to his game this year, is the step back 3-pointer. He can shake and bake guys and pull up in the mid-range, no problem, which is impressive.
He's probably one of the most scariest players in the league.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He's just so well-rounded offensively. Even his passing, like, he's not a flashy passer, but he gets the job done. Like, he averages a lot of assists. I think he averages 6 assists a game, 6 or 7.
Just the shots that this guy makes.
Yeah, it's crazy. He probably one of the best shot makers in the NBA.
I almost am going to say it. Like, he's like one of the most scariest 3-point threats in the league.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like he hits everything.
Yeah, he does.
And when he's hot, it's the worst thing ever.
Yeah. And he's another one of those point guards with the flair for the dramatics. Like Dame is one of those guys who sort of recognizes like the big moment and can sort of rise to the occasion. And Steph's like that too, obviously. But those sorts of players are just fun to watch when you know that they know that it's a big moment in the game and you know that they're about to take over. Dame's one of those guys. I think we already touch on him defensively. He's not the best defensively, but he's got quick feet. He's pretty strong. He can stay in front of most guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's nothing really special, but he's like Steph. He's not going to hurt you on that end.
But yeah.
So yeah, that is my top 30.
You know how impressive it is that you just did that? Like, that is absolutely insanity.
Thanks.
Yeah, but what I'm thinking is, yeah, like, I think what we'll do is in the description of the video, we'll like put in time clips. So like, because like say someone didn't want to listen to the full 30, we could do like 20, 30 to 20 at this time range, 20 to 10 this time range, and then we can do 10 to 1 in this specific time slot.
All right, yeah, that sounds good.
Dude, I'm so interested to see how freaking long that was.
I know. I think we went for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
Here, I'm not gonna say anything about these players. I'm just gonna list my 45 through 30, just in case like anybody's like mad that their team's starting point guard got left off or whatever. Yeah. I'll just list my honorable mentions from 45 to 31. Corey Joseph, Shabazz Napier, Frank Jackson, Avery Bradley, Ish Smith, Kai Bowman, Tomas Satoransky, Markelle Fultz, Kobe White, DeJounte Murray, Reggie Jackson, Monte Morris, Tyus Jones, Patrick Beverley, Devontae Graham.
You put Kai Bowman in there?
Yeah. It was kind of interesting. When I was sort of making this list, he was like the one guy who I couldn't really decide where I wanted him. So this might be just some recency bias, but I actually have been watching a lot of film on him the past couple of days, and I'm very impressed. Like, he's
so athletic.
Yeah, and he
throws down.
Yeah, and he's not like
he throws down.
And he's a good defender too, I think. So I think he definitely has a future in the league.
He was going to play wide receiver in like at Alabama or something crazy.
Oh, really? I didn't know that, but that's crazy though.
Yeah, he's a freak athlete.
I just think he has like a high upside, so I kind of am interesting to see what his role is going to be next year.
Yeah, he had an Alabama offer to play football.
Damn, that's crazy.
Dude, but if you think about it, he looks small, but he would have been a big physical wide receiver.
Yeah, you know he's crazy if he got a offer to play football at Alabama. You know he's an athlete.
Kai Bowman height. Yeah, he's 6'1". That's obviously not a huge wide receiver, but I mean like for his speed and athleticism, that'd be pretty crazy. He'd be like Henry Ruggs or something.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's a guy whose career I'll be watching very closely.
Yeah, I really like him a lot.
I'm impressed from what I saw.
Yeah. So do you want like I honestly I'm gonna talk about actually you want to do another one maybe tomorrow where I can talk about the UFC and then freaking the San Francisco Giants?
Yeah, it sounds good.
You want to actually do that? We can just end this one. This one was really good and we can just split it up into parts.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
it'll be like one long one too, right?
Yeah, it'll be one long one, but when someone clicks on it, they'll see the time slots of what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, in the description. I got you.
Yeah, it'll be awesome.
That'll be perfect. Yeah, cool.
Okay, so we can do it. We can do it tomorrow night.
Okay, cool.
Dude, you killed it.
Maybe we should make this a weekly series. Like I could do my top shooting guards next week.
Yeah, it's so like this. That's so impressive to me. Like I don't think you understand. Like when I was saying this, like that is crazy. Like the fact that you broke down 30 different guys and could have done it for 45 and like ranked them in an order that made sense and that was in, I don't know, like that was just super impressive. And I think like if people actually watch this, they're gonna like appreciate it a lot. I'm literally gonna put that. I'm gonna be like, Jonah, you're gonna be blessed with the knowledge Jonah is gonna put upon you. But yes, all right, that was really good.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to another episode of Jonah's NBA Talk. But yeah, okay. All right. Bye, Jonah. Good job. We'll do one tomorrow. Okay.
Sounds good. See you
All
then.
right. Good night.